Howdy, I'm Wilcox Lives. I think it's time to play a little 7 Days to Die. Alright. Oh yeah, I got a quest. I forgot about quests. I did that, let's get that off my screen. I don't want to see that. Kill spider zombies. Quests. Nope, that's skills. Map. Nope. Quests are over here. Uh, I wish that one worked. No traitor. Alright. Now, so today I wanted to explore this school, maybe. A little bit here. Look, the door's what? Look at you, little rabbit. I know domesticated rabbits look something like this. Do wild rabbits look like this? Our wild rabbits around here are all one color. I guess they must be, otherwise you wouldn't have, like, stripy rabbits, right? So this is the, I don't know, I think the game updated since last time I played. And it did tell me, oh, have I been here before? Is this that school that I fought and died in? I bet it was. I bet I've been here before. Never mind. I thought I was going to explore this place, but it's a bust. I've already been here. Let's take this road out of here then and see where this leads to. So we did get to play a bit of D&D this week. One of the guys had some internet issues, which closes down. Oh, you know what? I need to stop here. I wanted to look. Let me kill this zombie and get out of the way. I wanted to look about steel. What do I have to get to steel? Let's see. Is that a strength thing? Is it an int thing? I don't remember. You're now blacksmith and able to forge, tinkering, craft workbenches and cement mixers, electrician, inventor. This says costing forged steel, crafting, not costing, crafting forged steel and electrical devices cost 15% less. So I have to learn steel somewhere else then. Steel. Wait, can I just make steel? No, I need a crucible. Right. Crucible. Okay. The crucible is locked under advanced engineering. Okay, that's what I was looking for. And oh no, advanced engineering, isn't that like the biggest one? No, it's just got to be under advanced engineering somewhere. But it doesn't tell me when. So, yeah, it looks like I need to raise my intellect until I can make forged steel. Um, whenever that happens to take place. So, can we hit this guy with the bike? Yes. I was easily able to hit that guy with a bike. So yeah, so we played some D&D. We didn't get very far into it, really. Like I said, one of the guys didn't have a lot of time. So so we got this creature on the floor, and on the floor we were on, named an aboleth. And I don't really know off the top of my head that much about them. I know they're like heavily into like illusions and mind control. And we had fought one, but we fought like a diminutive version of one that wasn't in its home territory, which always makes those kinds of things easier to attack. And so I I was a little leery about going to fight it, and I figured since we had this bunch of money that maybe we should, and we were in town, that maybe we should, you know, stock up on supplies and maybe talk to some NPCs about aboleths. And so I'm like, well, I'd like to go to like we're members of this protection group called Force Grey, sort of. We're associates. Let's put it that way. We're associates with Force Grey. I don't know if I'd necessarily say we're members of. And but we have some pull in Force Grey. And so I thought it'd be a great idea if we talk to those people about what they know about aboleths. And so I'm like, hey, we should, when we're starting, our DM is like, so we going to fight this aboleth? And I'm like, well, I mean, there's some stuff I want to do in town first, while we're here. Oh, and he's like, I mean, I guess you could do that. You don't want to just go right and start the aboleth fight. I'm like, no, I don't want to start the aboleth fight. We're in town. Can we have 2 seconds to discuss this with each other before you shove us into something? And I said I wanted to go talk to I said to the rest of the party, maybe we should go talk to Force Grey and see what they know about aboleths and what we could do to prepare for it. And our DM's like, you already know all about aboleths. I'm like, okay, well, I don't personally remember all about aboleths. And so he gives me some vague description of what aboleths do and says something about how their attacks cause diseases. And I'm like, oh, diseases. What can we do about diseases? We need to prepare for diseases then. And so I'm like, are there like potions to protect us from diseases, or spells that we could use? And the DM's like, not that I'm aware of. I'm like, well, I'm gonna look for a minute here. And because it's, it seems like protection from disease would be a thing, right? And so I'm looking through all this stuff, and I can't find anything that protects you from disease that we could afford or use. I mean, I couldn't find anything to protect you from disease. They have potions of resistance, but nothing that works with disease. Potions of resistance only work on damage types, and disease is not a damage type. There's no potion of cure disease. There's no spell that I could find. I mean, admittedly, it was a quick search, and I only typed in like protection from disease or the word disease, and yeah, and I couldn't find anything. And I'm like, huh, there's nothing. And then our DM's like, oh well, I found a potion that cures disease, potion of vitality, and I'm like, okay. And then he's like, let me see how much that costs. And so then he rolls some dice and he's like, $3,500 or 3,500 gold per potion. And I'm like, that's like, and all it does is cure the disease. You don't even know if you're going to get a disease. And 3,500 gold is a lot of gold. Admittedly, I did spend like 8,000 gold when all was said and done, but 3,500 gold is a lot of gold. And so especially for a potion that's like, drink this potion, it cures the disease, and your 3,500 gold is gone. And uh, I can't warrant that price for something that may or may not happen, you know? And so uh, get back. So then I was like, well, maybe with all this money, I'm like, could we look around for like magic items or weapons or something? They might have for sale, because we're in the largest city in Faerun, right? If if any place in the world is gonna have magic items for sale, this is the place. I mean, this is just the place. It's where it's gonna happen. And so he's like, "Well, I'll let you. You tell me what you want." And I'm like, "Well, I don't really know what I want. I hate having to decide. Like, it takes away from some of the fun. I mean, on the one hand, I don't want the treasure to always be a spell book when we don't have any wizards in our group, and I think that's stupid. I think the loot in D&D Adventures is terrible. Um, and I think like they name some treasures. Like, I understand, like, if you're Curse of Strahd, you gotta find the magic items that you're supposed to get to fight Strahd with, right? I understand that you want that to happen. On the other hand, how many daggers, magic daggers, are there in the game? Who's using all these magic daggers? It's like there's so few like things that apply to certain types of players, and it's just like 80% of the loot is geared toward spellcasters. Maybe even more than 80%. 95% of the loot is spellcaster stuff. It's always scrolls and spell books and potions that are so situational that you're probably not even going to use them in the campaign you got them from, and chances are when the campaign's over, you're just going to make new characters. Like, when are you ever gonna just carry around water breathing potion? Like, we've got one water breathing potion that we got from this campaign. What good is one water breathing potion gonna do a group of 4 people in a dungeon? Oh, I knew there was something there, and then I heard it tick. I'm gonna search this place. You try to kill me? I'm gonna loot your little military base. I'm gonna go ahead and repair this right now. And anyways, so our DM is like, all right, so you let me know what you want, and then I'll tell you if they've got it or not. I'm like, ugh, I don't know what I want. I wanted you to tell me what's available so I can think about it and decide what ways I can, like, if I just tell you, then I can't be creative. Uh, I don't. Why don't you just have a magic item shop with some magic items for sale so I can peruse the magic shop? You know what our classes are. You know what kind of things we might want to look into. Um, but no, so he's like, no, you gotta tell me what you want, and it could be rare or uncommon. I guess it's the opposite. Uncommon or rare items. He would let us suggest that we could find in the town. And so I'm looking at the list and I'm just like, there's nothing really coming up on this list that's like, this is the thing you want. And so I'm like, and I feel like some of it's a little overpowered and and I'm not I want, interesting magic items. I don't necessarily just want to be super overpowered, looted out, right? Until this happens. I'm like, all right, so any uncommon or rare we can suggest, and then we'll see if they've got any. We're rolling to see if they have any, right? That's what he says. So then I'm like, well, I got a +1 weapon, +2 weapons are on the board. Now I don't know what he has done or read that he imagines that makes such a big difference. He's not the only DM that I've played with that acts like a +1 or a +2 makes a massive difference. They think it does, but it has not made that big a difference in my gameplay or my DMing. Adding 1 to your dice roll or a 2 to your dice roll, or 2 extra damage to stuff that has like 150 hit points. I mean, sure, over time it adds up, but nothing lasts over time. That's the trick to D&D, is that there's no overtime with it. 3, 4 rounds in your combat had better be done, or else you're dying. There's no 20 round combat where that 2 extra points is going to make a big difference. You're talking like 8 points of fight. Well, no, I guess it'd be more than that. 16 extra points of damage at our level with a +2 if I hit. It's uh and on top of that, I'm a great weapon master. So if I want to really do the damage, I have to subtract 5 from my roll. So that +2 just means I take a -3, and I already have a +1, so it's only 1 point extra. So instead of a -5, I'd be basically switching to a -4 if I got a +2 weapon instead of my +1 weapon. So he wasn't having that. He's like, no, that's too powerful. I'm not ready for you guys to have +2 weapons. And I'm like, all right. And so I was looking at, there were a couple of other ones, and I hesitated to get the one. The one sounded interesting to me, but thinking about how it plays out in combat, I opted not to even mention it. But they had this sword of wounding, which sounded cool. Um, but I hate to add so many extra rules to combat because there's a lot of dice rolling. And the sort of wounding, you can wound once per turn creature you're fighting, and then if it fails its saving roll against the wound each turn, it takes an extra 1d4 damage. So that was cool. I kind of like that idea. And so I thought about saying that's what if they had one of those swords. And then I'm like, It's just going to add a lot of trying to remember, who's wounded, how many wounds do they have, because you can wound them more than once. How many. It's just a lot of extra note taking and stuff trying to make sure that this happens. And so I, I'm like, yeah, I, I'm just gonna. I'm not even gonna suggest that. And then I was looking at another one that was like, if you roll a 20, then you get an extra 10 hit points. I was like, well, that doesn't seem super powerful, but it's not. I don't roll a 20 often enough to make that worth my time. I felt, and so then I see on the list, and I saw it on the list, I guess, before I got to those other ones. When I asked about a +2 weapon, I was like, flame tongue. It'd be cool to have a flame tongue, but that's just super overpowered, in my opinion. I have a champion fighter in another campaign that we played who had a lightning based weapon, and it would it would only work if they failed a Constitution saving throw of 14. So Constitution saving throw of 14 against monsters means it doesn't happen very often, but you had to do it every time. And so while I thought it was cool in concept, I don't know exactly what that is. While it was cool in concept, and it was cool when it worked, when it electrocuted someone. Having to have the bad guy roll a saving throw every time I hit them with a fighter, who at one point was doing like once per fight, basically. I would have a round where I had a potential to hit 3, 6, um, 3, 6, 8, 8, 9 times. I had the potential some rounds to hit 9 times. So 9 times, whatever I hit would have to roll a saving throw, and then I'd have to, if it failed, then I'd have to roll extra lightning damage, kind of thing. And so I liked it. But it's just a lot of dice rolling, and so the flame tongue doesn't have the Constitution saving throw. The flame tongue is just straight up extra fire damage. And I'm like, all right, so it wouldn't let me have a +2, and so I just sarcastically, which was only a +1 to what I already had, and so I sarcastically goes, well, what about this flame tongue? And he goes, what level is that? I'm like, well, it's a rare, and so he's like, well, I mean, it's not gonna have a plus to it. I'm like, nope, I see, it's not a plus weapon. It's magic, but it's not a +1 magic weapon. And oh no, I'm gonna take advantage of that against you guys. That guy's just dancing around in circles. Well, don't stop swinging. I'm out of stamina fighting zombies. There's just too much punching going on there. And so, I think you can get like BVU supplies on it. I never use that stuff. I don't know why I always collect it. And so he's like, well, I mean, fire is one of the most commonly resisted things. And so, yeah, I don't have a problem with that, I guess. And then we rolled for price, and it was super expensive. But in my mind, I'm like, you're aware, right, that 2d6 halved is more damage than the +2 you were just afraid of, right? I mean, sure, I have to take I don't get +2 to my attack roll, but it's super rare for me to roll. It's super rare for me to roll where a 2 is going to make a difference. I'm a really good, really bad roller, and so I either get like a 7 to hit or a 27 to hit, and there's no in between for me. I'm not a constantly rolling 18s kind of guy, you know. Unfortunately, I would prefer to be the rolls a lot of 16, 17, 18s. Um, but I'm always rolling a 3 or always rolling a 19, you know. And so, yeah, and so I'm like, so 2d6 halved is still an extra d6 of damage. So you're not okay with an extra 2 damage, but you're okay with an extra 6 to, 2 to 12 damage? How does that even make any sense? Alright, so I'm completely loaded up with stuff and it's almost nighttime. I should probably head home. So yeah, that was weird to me. So now I've got this flame tongue great sword because that's what I like to use as a great sword. Um, I know you can get more damage with other weapons, but I don't know. I just like the concept in my head of a great sword. Um, so that mountain biking skills. So yeah, we did a little shopping. I got a ring of protection for my one character, and I got a flame tongue for my other character. Basically bankrupted me, which is good because we had too much money. And but I was really disappointed. Another thing that led into me picking those treasures is I was like, man, we haven't really gotten anything even worth the time in this campaign. And so I Googled, what's the treasure like in the Mad Mage, adventure? And they're like, yeah, no, here's the list of what's in the Mad Mage. And I'm like, it's all junk. Like the coolest thing on the list after I read about it was not as cool as it. There's like a named sword, but then it turns out it's a sentient sword, which are super annoying. And to get it, you have to basically anger an entire floor of creatures and pull it out of a dragon's head and fight it. And I'm like, yeah, and it's not even super cool. I mean, just the idea of it was cool, but the actual weapon itself wasn't impressive, really. Um, and so I was just like, yeah, there's like no good armor, there's no good weapons. We've gotten so many spell books at this point. And now he said the person we were selling our spell books to no longer needs spell books, and so she's leaving. No longer buying spell books, I meant. And so she's leaving the city. So now we don't have someone to sell our spell books to. So that's great. So now that's more loot we can't do anything with since we're not wizards. there's so much wizard loot in D&D, and it's ridiculous. I so much, so many spell scrolls and weird items for spell casting, and it's just like I get it. A lot of this people have spells, but where's the good armor and weapons for the people who don't? Uh, like we played what was that one called? Princess of the Apocalypse. And you don't get good weapons until like the end of the game. And it's just, I don't know. As someone who grew up playing video game RPGs, I get D&D is not a video game, and I don't play it like a video game. But there's still that desire to get better equipment as you progress, right? And we're approaching the same levels as a lot of our other campaigns ended at. And I mean, I'm still running around in the basic armor almost. Well, the armor I'm in, I paid for. It wasn't even something we found. And then my weapons, I paid for. So my fighter character has never gotten an item except for one thing that I'm not even using now. Has never gotten an item that I didn't buy from town. That's how useless the loot is in this adventure for my classes. I've got a bard and a fighter. The fighter's never gotten an item that he used. We got a uh, we got a badge basically one time that we could use, and I had that equipped, but I never used it, and that's it. That's the only item that my fighter has ever gotten that wasn't like a potion of healing, right? Nothing else in the entire 2 campaigns now, other than money, has been worth having for my fighter. 2 campaigns, never got a single armor or weapon upgrade. I think my bow I paid for, my swords I paid for, my armor, my cloak, all of that I paid for it out of money in my pocket. Didn't drop. Didn't find it in a chest. Uh, so yeah, I hate that there. Oops, you shouldn't go in there. I hate that there's so little um, like loot in those veins like that. I wouldn't say it's annoying, but it's weird to me that D&D isn't better loot oriented for classes where loot matters. You know, uh, I don't know. Anyways, so I guess I should finish up my story that I haven't even barely started here. So we debated fighting the aboleth. We debated to the point where we decided not to. Our DM was not happy. He's like, I spent all my time preparing for the aboleth fight, and now you're not going to do it. I'm like, you told us you had the aboleth tell us to not. Like, he had the aboleth be like, continue on your way or I'm going to kill you. And then the aboleth, when we went one room over, sent multiple bad guys to attack us. And so I was like, okay, well, we won't fight the aboleth then if he's. I mean, I thought he would just let us look around outside of his territory, but no, he wanted us off the floor. So I just wasn't prepared to fight that thing in its maze at this time. And he didn't let us get like anti-disease potions, or we were looking for like something to protect us from mind control. None of that happened. None of that happened. He didn't let us have anything that was useful. I mean, beyond, yes, I bought a weapon. The weapon would be useful, but that's not what I mean. Like, he didn't let us get any equipment that was specifically tailored to that fight, except for one potion he wanted to charge us 3,500 gold apiece for. That would only be useful if we actually got diseased. Oh man, I am getting the hunger pains here. I should probably see what I can make. Well, I still don't have the potatoes that I need. I have a potato, but you need like 5. I've got a lot of meat. I got some eggs, I guess. Make some more bacon and eggs here. Yeah, I don't have a lot unlocked. I could do corn on the cob, which I don't think is very good. Cornbread, which isn't great. Boiled eggs I would never do because you can make bacon and eggs. And then those things just is a waste of my meat at this point. So bacon and eggs is it. I need some level ups. Although I feel like it's getting a little easier to do the level ups now because I, you know, have my knuckles that are really helping me survive. Also, I apparently had a bunch of bacon and eggs just waiting to be cooked up and didn't do it. Right, let's finish our story here real quick. So we skip past that. We go to the next floor down. I'm already aware because I looked ahead a little bit. I didn't want to necessarily know what was going on, but um, I don't remember what I was looking at. I was looking at the loot list to see if there's anything useful, and I was confused about the names of the dungeon levels, and I was like, Willow's Wood, is that a thing? So then I looked in the book to see what Willow's Wood was, and I'm like, ugh, it's like a whole floor of nothing. And so, um, and it really is like a whole floor of nothing. You either kill everything or you almost kill nothing. That's what the floor is. Um, there's a druidess that runs the whole place, and if you attack her creatures, then they all become hostile to you. And if you don't attack her or her creatures, then none of them are hostile to you. And so the only thing that's hostile to you is a handful of cloakers. And so we killed a few cloakers last night. Not enough to get our level. We needed 370 XP more. And tried to talk our DM into giving us more, and he wouldn't do it. Because it's nice to level up. And and we're supposed to level up on this floor to level 9 before we move on to the next floor, according to him. So I don't know why he was so stingy with the XP, because we're almost done with the floor. And he, I looked in the book, and at the top of the page of the book, it says, if your players deal with the creatures on this floor, then they should get enough XP to level up on this floor. And note, dealing with creatures does not always mean killing the creatures. And so we avoided Basilisk. We avoided Sida Ettins with some not Ettin. Etter caps? Etten caps? Ooh, I don't remember what those guys are called. Spider farmers. We avoided the spider farmers and their spiders. We avoided a basilisk. We killed a few cloakers. We avoided a will-o-wisp. We didn't kill the awakened trees or the elk. Um, and we rang the bell to talk to the Druidess. And I felt like, you know, we probably did 370 XP worth of stuffs. Maybe. He wasn't having it, though. Wasn't having it. Oh. Need some woods over here. Anyways, I guess with that, I'm going to call it a day. That's where we ended, was we rang the bell to talk to the Druidess. Oh, and he was very not happy once we got into combat. Because, I mean, I didn't really look what was on the floor, but it turns out that sort of fire, um, cloakers don't like light. And so when I ignite the flame sword, it gives off light, and the cloakers have disadvantage because of the light. And then also I was doing an extra 2d6 damage, and then he's like, it's calculating, because we use digital tools to play. We don't actually roll dice. And he's like, it's calculating the information wrong. I'm like, what? He's like, look, it's got this thing in here. It says RO. And I'm like, yeah, that's roll again if I get a 1 or a 2 on those. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I'm a great weapon master. I'm a great weapon fighter, which means I get to reroll my 1s and 2s one time if like you roll your damage dice, and if it's a 1 and 2 and you're using a great weapon, then you get to re-roll it once and take the new damage. Like we've been doing since the campaign started, like you do every time I play a fighter, because I like fighters. Every time I play a fighter with a great weapon fighting, and he's like, oh, right. But look at what it's doing. I'm like, what? I rolled a 6 and a 6. It didn't even use the RO part. What are you talking about? I rolled a 6 and a 6. That's 12. And then it adds my strength. And he's like, yeah, but it gives you 17 damage. I'm like, yeah, 6 plus 6 is 12. 12 plus 5 is 17. Oh, right. Uh, and he's like, well, what about this other one? I'm like, well, that's the fire damage from the sword. He's like, oh, it's doing so much damage. I should have given you that. I'm like, well, I wanted a +2 weapon. It would have been way different with a +2 weapon, wouldn't it? But no, we couldn't have that. I'd have done 20 damage instead of 27 damage. Look at that. So now you get to play with 2d6 fire damage every time I hit something. Um, so, yep. All right. With that, be better than the small things, lean in the light, and I will talk to you later.